You know, back in 2015, astronomers stumbled upon something, well, something just plain weird. A star that was behaving so strangely, it made us all wonder if we'd finally found evidence of an alien civilization. This is the incredible story of a cosmic mystery that pretty much broke all the rules. Okay, it all boils down to this one number, 22%. That's how much a star, way out there, 1,400 light-years away, suddenly dimmed. And let me tell you, that number, it should be absolutely impossible.
And to give you a little perspective on just how wild that is, think about Jupiter. It's the biggest planet in our solar system, right? When it passes in front of our sun, it only blocks about 1% of the light. So to get a dip of 22%, you'd need something ridiculously huge. This wasn't just some little blip. It was a genuine, baffling puzzle.
So yeah, that's the big question, right? The heart of this whole cosmic whodunit. What in the universe could be big enough and weird enough to cast a shadow that massive? The hunt for an answer? Well, it was going to lead scientists down some very strange paths.
So the star we're talking about has this, super technical name, KIC 8462852. But nobody calls it that. We all know it as Tabby's star. And the coolest part? It wasn't found by some professional astronomer in a fancy observatory. It was flagged in 2015 by regular people, citizen scientists in the Planet Hunters project who were just sifting through NASA data from their living rooms.
And you've got to understand, the amount of data here was just staggering. The Kepler telescope looked at 150,000 stars. NASA couldn't possibly process all that, so they asked the public for help. For years, these volunteers stared at graph after graph, and out of all those thousands of stars, only one behaved like this. The star is nicknamed for Dr. Tabitha Boyajian, who led the team that confirmed, yep, this is real.
Okay, so when you find something this bizarre in science, the first thing you do is try to explain it with stuff you already know. You see, scientists are naturally skeptical. They immediately went down the checklist of usual cosmic suspects. But one by one, every single conventional theory just fell apart.
All right, first suspect on the list, the obvious one, a really big planet. But the physics just didn't add up. An object big enough to blot 22% of a star's light isn't really a planet anymore. It's something called a brown dwarf, which is kind of like a failed star, and it would glow with its own heat. Astronomers pointed their infrared telescopes at it, looking for that heat signature, and found nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so if it's not a giant planet, what about a protoplanetary disk? Maybe the star was young, still surrounded by all the dust and rubble that planets are made of. It's a great thought, but it failed for two big reasons. One, the star is actually mature, not a baby. And two, just like a brown dwarf, a giant disk of warm dust would glow in infrared. And again, they looked, and again, nothing.
So then they thought, hey, what about comets? A massive swarm of them. And for a while, this was actually the front runner for a natural explanation. The idea was that some other star flew by and knocked a huge cloud of comets out of their orbit, sending them careening past Tabby's star. This could explain the weird random dips, but the problem was just the sheer scale of it. We're talking hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of comets all at once. Possible, I guess, but really unlikely.
And just when you think things couldn't get any weirder, they did. Big time. Just as the comet idea was looking like the best bet, researchers decided to dig through old photographic plates from the 1890s, and he discovered that Tabby's star wasn't just having these random dips, it had also been slowly but steadily getting dimmer for over a century. A passing comet swarm just can't explain that. Something else was going on.
And this is the moment the whole conversation just shifted. With all the natural explanations on the floor, some scientists like Jason Wright started to ask the big, crazy question that most are afraid to even think about. What if this isn't natural? What if we're looking at technology? The idea they focused on is called a Dyson swarm. Now, when you hear that, don't picture some solid Death Star-like shell around the star. The more plausible idea is a swarm of millions of individual, giant solar collectors, all orbiting their star to soak up every last drop of energy. It's the ultimate power grid.
And the spooky thing, the reason this idea took off, it just fit all the weird data points so perfectly. Those deep, irregular dips, well, that could be massive individual collectors passing in front of the star. The fact that there's no clear pattern, easy. The collectors are all in different orbits. And that long-term fading over 100 years, maybe that's the civilization actively building the swarm, adding more collectors over time. It was a disturbingly good fit.
So, as you can imagine, the whole alien megastructure thing just blew up. It was everywhere. And the scientific community knew they had to get more data. But getting dedicated telescope time is really, really hard. So Dr. Boasian and her team did something pretty radical. They asked the public for help.
They did something kind of unheard of for this kind of research. They launched a Kickstarter. They wanted to raise enough money to get a whole year of continuous observation from telescopes all around the world. And people responded. They raised over $100,000. It was a massive win for citizen science, and it gave them exactly what they needed to get to the bottom of this.
Okay, so the key to cracking this whole thing came down to a really simple bit of physics. How different colors of light get blocked. See, a big solid object, like a piece of a megastructure, would block all colors of light equally. It would cast a simple gray shadow. But tiny particles, like dust, do something different. They scatter light, and they're much better at scattering short wavelength blue light than long wavelength red light. It's literally the same reason our sky looks blue.
And there it was, the smoking gun. When the next dimming event happened, the telescopes were watching, and the data was unmistakable. The star got a lot dimmer in blue light than it did in red light. The shadow wasn't gray, the culprit wasn't aliens, it was, in a word, dust.
So, that's it, right? Case closed, it's just dust. Well, not so fast. Because ruling out aliens didn't actually solve the puzzle. In a lot of ways, it made it even stranger. Because now scientists had to explain a kind of dust that acts in a way no one has ever seen before.
So now we're left with these two massive questions. First, where on Earth is all this dust coming from? What could possibly create such a huge, clumpy cloud of it? And second, we're back to that old nagging problem. If there's that much dust, it should be warm and glowing with heat, so why is it totally invisible to infrared telescopes? Right now, the leading theory sounds like something out of a cosmic disaster movie. The idea is that Tabby's star used to have a planet in a really weird elliptical orbit. On one of its close passes, the star's gravity just shredded the planet. But in all that chaos, one of its big moons survived, got thrown into a new, super tight orbit, and is now getting absolutely cooked by the star. Its surface is literally evaporating into a huge, messy trail of fine dust.
But even that wild story doesn't quite tie up all the loose ends. That missing heat signature is still a huge problem. We still don't know for sure where the dust comes from. Some astronomers think they see a faint repeating pattern every 4 years or so, but they're not sure. And now we're starting to find other stars that look kind of like this, which means it might be a whole new kind of cosmic phenomenon we're just now discovering.
So, where do we go from here? Well, our hopes are pinned on the James Webb Space Telescope. Its infrared vision is so powerful, so much more sensitive than anything we've had before. If there's any faint heat coming from that dust, Webb is our best and maybe only shot at seeing it. It could finally tell us what this stuff is made of, and that might be the key to the whole thing.
When you step back, the story of Tabby's start is it's a perfect example of science in action. Now, it probably wasn't aliens, but the journey to figure that out was incredible. And it all started because ordinary people, volunteers, noticed something that just didn't look right. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other impossible things are hiding out there in the dark, just waiting for a curious mind to find them?